The Carolina Panthers have already had one of the most aggressive off seasons in the league, coming off just winning the NFC South for the first time in a decade. And instead of playing it safe, they have doubled down. But here's the real question: what if they're not done yet? Because if they make these three moves, they just don't stay division winners. They turn into legitimate NFC contenders. Let's start with what they've done already. The front office, led by former Panthers linebacker Dan Morgan, came into the offseason with a clear message: not just to compete, but to build something that's going to last. They have addressed early needs such as Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, and the offensive line help with Rasheed Walker and Luke Fortner. They even picked up quarterback depth with Kenny Pickett. And they were able to keep a couple guys like Isaiah Simmons and Mike Scott. And all that matters because for the first time in a long time, Carolina has true flexibility. They're not desperately heading to the draft. They can be aggressive if they feel the need to. They can take a few risks, but they also can sit back and just take the draft as it comes. But let's also be clear about this. Just because you win the free agent market, that does not mean you're going to win games in the season. What it does mean, though, is you're just putting yourself in the best position possible for the season. And that's what good teams do. They put themselves in position to make bold moves. Let's start with the move that could probably reshape this defense overnight. You take a shot and trade for Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now, at first, that might sound crazy, but when you really break it down, it makes a lot of sense. Thibodeaux had 11 and a half sacks in 2023. That's not potential. That's just straight out production. But his numbers dipped. Why? Well, the Giants have Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. They have a great defensive line rotation. They have a number of dudes in that defensive line group who can probably start for a number of other teams, but they just all have to be in the same squad. He's just not the centerpiece anymore. And here's the key: he's entering the final year of his rookie deal. This creates an opportunity for the Panthers to buy low. Now, going to Carolina, yes, they've added Jalen Phillips, and it was a big move. They spent big money for him. But one edge rusher isn't going to be enough. We saw it last year. Rookie Nick Scorton had to lead the team in sacks, and he only had 5.5. When you can't consistently rush the quarterback and put pressure on him, everything falls apart. The coverage breaks down, your games slip away, you can't win close games. Now imagine this rotation instead. You have Phillips, Thibodeaux, and Scorton. Now you're not relying on any one of those guys to be the guy. They become a guy in a rotation. You're able to send wave after wave after wave of good edge rushers to any quarterback in the league. And that's how great defenses are able to take over games. And if you don't believe me, ask the Giants back in ask the Giants back in 2007. And ask them, how were they able to disrupt Tom Brady in that perfect offense? They changed history. And now when you think about the value here, you're getting a first-round talent for probably a third or fourth round pick. That's not depth, and it's not just depth. It's just a great statement to show everyone in your division, in the league, that you mean business. Now look at this one, and it's going to sound a little crazy, but the Panthers should definitely explore trading for Marvin Harrison Jr. Now I want you to stay with me. He came in the league with huge expectations. He was a top 5 pick, had elite traits, and a clear future number 1 receiver. And to his credit, he's shown some flashes, but the production just hasn't matched his draft stocks yet. He's had 885 yards as a rookie, Then that dropped to 600 yards last year. And yes, injuries have played a role with Harrison's lack of production. Meanwhile, for Arizona, they just got rid of Kyler. They're looking to almost reset their roster. They're changing directions. And when you're wanting that, they're looking to get true draft capital. And that's the window that Carolina can easily jump into. Now, the move isn't just adding a receiver because they've done a lot of great picks and have already focused on it with back-to-back first rounders. But you're doing something else to support Bryce Young because right now there's still a question at wide receiver. There's talent, but Xavier Legette has not lived up to the first round pick. So if you're able to add him to a draft, if you're able to add Legette to a trade with the Arizona Cardinals, a potential third or second round pick, and possibly a future pick it'd be almost a great deal for both teams. Is it a little aggressive? Absolutely. But if it works, you look at this offense. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Coker, and McMillan. And it's not just about the talent, it's about a foundation that you're building in Carolina. And in today's NFL, if your quarterback hits, everything changes. Now you're not just building an offense, you're building a nightmare for defenses. And you have to ask yourself, what does this move do? What do the teams in the NFC South not want Carolina? What do teams in the NFC South not want to see? They don't want to see this move. The third move isn't as flashy, but it probably, in my opinion, the most important. You just go out and get David Njoku. Here's why. The tight end position hasn't been consistent. Sanders has upside, but he's coming off an injury. And that just creates uncertainty because you don't know what he's going to be like in the future. And yes, the draft is an offense. Yes, the draft is an option. But players like Sadiq have been steadily, since his combine performance, have been steadily staying the top 15. I've seen him go as high as 7 to the Commanders. So instead of waiting, you just get the proven production right now. Njoku gets you athleticism. He's a mismatch ability. He has mismatch ability, and he's purely reliable. And for a young quarterback like Bryce Young, that last one just matters so much because every great quarterback just sometimes needs a safety blanket and someone over the middle who's going to be a reliable target for them, someone who's there when the play breaks down. And that's how you're going to elevate this offense. And that's just, at the end of the day, how you support your quarterback. So when you take a step back and look at all this, you start to see the bigger picture. The Panthers aren't rebuilding anymore. That phase is over. Now it's about this. What do other teams not want Carolina to do? They probably don't want them to add another edge rusher like Thibodeaux. They probably don't want them to get another top-end receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr., and they for sure don't want the Panthers to add another reliable weapon in Njoku. Some of these moves do feel like long shots, but they're also moves that change perception, that make other teams nervous, because now you're not just the division winner. You're a team that nobody wants to play. And sometimes one bold move is all it takes to change everything. Even if they make one of these moves, they're still dangerous. And if they make all three, now we're talking about being contenders. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Like, comment which move you would make, and subscribe for more Panthers and NFL content. Peace.